But tonight's big breaking story is coming from Srinagar, where 3 Pakistan terrorists have been killed in an encounter, and the Jammu and Kashmir police says identification is underway. The big news, sources claiming one of the terrorists could be the Pahalgam mastermind. Lashkar terrorist Moosa is among the slain terrorists, according to sources to India Today, but a final confirmation on the identification of the 3 terrorists is still awaited. Remember, it's more than 3 months since that terror attack took place, and questions have been raised as to where are the terrorists. Could this be the big breakthrough in avenging Pahalgam in a way? Kamaljeet Sandhu, who's been tracking that story since the morning, joins us. Kamaljeet, can you give us more details? The Jammu and Kashmir police says identification underway. What are you picking up?
Well, it's taken several months to say the least. It's 3 months since Pahalgam terror attack, and South Kashmir, there were massive cordon and search operations carried out, but nothing came out of it. However, this is by chance an encounter which has taken place, remember, in the Mahadev Ridge area. Remember, as far as security forces are concerned, they had been actually looking for clues all around. But the first one came around 11th of July, when a communication signal came on just for a few seconds. That's the time they actually pinpointed towards Dachigaon area. Thereafter, several teams were sent in, and remember, Jammu Kashmir Police, the CRPF, the Indian Army, but it was 4 paras which really got lucky, because 2 days ago, once again, that communication signal came on, so they zeroed in and then they started moving. And you know, when 4 paras moved in that particular area, they saw a tarpaulin, and then they saw these terrorists who were hunting, obviously tired from several hours of trekking. They had been moving around not just with weapons but also with utensils and items to eat. So what has happened now is, based on the photographs of the bodies, remember, drone photography is also being done. There's also a possible identification, and that is why it was important that Jammu Kashmir Police sends a team of experts. They had to trek down 7 to 8 hours, and that is why this arduous journey itself becomes very important. A lot of people saying, why is it taking so long? Because it's not on the plain side, it's in the deep forested region of Dachigam. This is where they have trekked 7-8 hours into an area which may be 9,000 meters. And what we've also been told is there is a possibility that these bodies are carried back down, especially on stretchers. But yes, underway is the identification, and soon we will know. But as far as the photographs are concerned, it does look like Abu Suleiman, and he is Hashim Moosa, a man who's been identified as one of the perpetrators, and that could be the first success coming in. The others are also being identified. One is Haris, the other is also being identified, but clearly more will come once the identification is through. But this is a chance encounter, as we would say, because several of these security teams were scurrying out, and obviously there is a lot of time, a lot of credit apparently is due, and this is where it does seem that 4 paras have actually stolen a thunder. But we will know once a final confirmation comes in, and it's taken months and months, and all due. We've been told only 5 bullets were shot in this entire encounter. It was a very brief encounter, and remember, these terrorists had no chance to even retaliate back because they were napping at that point of time.
Okay, Kamaljeet Sandhu giving us those details. Possibility that at least one of them could be one of the terrorists who was the mastermind of that Pahalgam attack, but more details will come when the identification is complete. Ironically, all of this coming on a day when the debate on Operation Sindoor finally got underway in the Lok Sabha. For the government, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh started the debate. For the opposition, the opening speaker was its deputy leader, Congress MP Govt. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar spoke in the evening, giving a detailed account of what happened in US Vice President J.D. Vance's phone call to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The debate is expected to continue tomorrow. But we thought we will first dissect what has happened today. How does this debate answer some of the unanswered questions? Do those questions still swirl around over Operation Sindoor? I will be breaking those questions down with a special panel. Let me introduce my panel first and then come question by question to my guests. Brahma Chelani is India's leading strategic affairs expert. He will join us. Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav is former DG Infantry. Vivek Kaju, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Gentlemen, my only request is keep your intervention short so that we can pack in as much as we can as we break down what was said in Parliament today. The first question and the first unanswered question, remember Donald Trump 26 times has claimed he is the one who brokered the India-Pak ceasefire. Does Trump really deserve to claim credit or is he lying? That's one of the questions that's been swirling. Listen in to what Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, had to say in response to the T word, not terror, but Trump.
दिन पे हमारे राष्ट्रदूत कहते हैं कि हम पाकिस्तान पर हमला करेंगे और शाम के 10 मई को सूचना आती है कि पाकिस्तान के साथ अब युद्ध पर हम परिणाम दे रहे हैं, सीज फायर हो गया। क्यों हुआ? हम आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी से जानना चाहते थे, अगर पाकिस्तान वाकई में अपने घुटने टिकने के लिए तैयार था तो आपने क्यों रुका, आप क्यों रुके और किसके सामने आप झुके, किसके सामने आपने सरेंडर किया, किसके सामने आपने सरेंडर किया? वो अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति जो 26 बार आज कह चुके हैं कि व्यापार को लेकर उन्होंने भारत और पाकिस्तान को सतर्क किया और दोनों को मजबूर किया कि वो इस जंग को छोड़े।
That on the 9th of May, Vice President J.D. Vance called the Prime Minister, warning of a massive Pakistani attack in the next few hours. Prime Minister, in his response, made it very clear that if such an attack happens, it would meet with an appropriate response from our side. Now, sir, that attack took place and was foiled by our armed forces, and I think the House should collectively appreciate the performance of the armed forces in foiling what was a massive attack. Now, on the 10th of May, we received phone calls sharing the impression of other countries that Pakistan was ready to cease the fighting. Our position was, if Pakistan was ready, we needed to get this as a request from the Pakistani side through the DGMO channel. That is exactly how that request came. Now, I want to make two things very clear, sir. One, at no stage in any conversation with the United States was there any linkage with trade and what was going on. Secondly, there was, please listen. Secondly, there was no call between the Prime Minister and President Trump from the 22nd of April when President Trump called up to convey his sympathy and the 17th of June when he called up Prime Minister in Canada to explain why he could not meet.
Brahma Chelani, you've heard what was said there. Do you go along now? Can we now safely say that President Trump does not deserve to claim credit?
Whether he deserves credit or not is a larger issue, but we should not forget one thing, that President Trump has never claimed that he spoke with Prime Minister Modi. But it speaks for itself that the first announcement on the ceasefire was made neither by India nor by Pakistan, but by President Trump. Trump made the first announcement on the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Similarly, in 2019, when India carried out the Balakot airstrike and Pakistan then responded militarily, it was President Trump, serving in his first term, who announced de-escalation between India and Pakistan. So there is a record here, and the record actually goes back a long way. For example, during the Kargil War, President Clinton intervened, and he made the announcement of de-escalation. So the US has a tendency to intervene. We do not know to what extent Trump intervened in the Operation Sindoor of India. But at the minimum, the US played the role of a facilitator. It did speak with Pakistan. It did convey messages to New Delhi. So there was a role for the US in this conflict. To what extent it played a role in getting Pakistan to agree to a ceasefire, we do not know. But it did play the role of at least a facilitator.
Okay. Let me take that to you, Vivek Karju, as someone who's had a long experience of diplomacy. How are we to read what Jaishankar said in response to the opposition question or the country's question on how was a ceasefire achieved? Gaurav Gogoi saying if we were so much on top of Pakistan and why did we then go in for a ceasefire? Jaishankar has given an entire timeline. Does that lay the issue to rest in your view now?
I think Jaishankar is a consummate diplomat. He has vast experience by now as external affairs minister. So he chose his words very, very carefully. What did he say? He said, and this is a fact, let me add, this is a fact that during such confrontations, many countries have what I choose to call conversations between the contending or the parties in conflict. And certainly in this case too, many of the major powers would be having conversations at different levels with us. What Jaishankar has clarified is, and what Brahma has also said, I agree with him, that there's been no talk of a direct conversation between Trump and Prime Minister Modi.
But then why did Trump choose to announce the ceasefire? With due regard, why did, you see, by announcing the ceasefire and then repeatedly claiming credit for it, did Jaishankar, in your view, address that issue?
But let me just complete. I'll just take half a second. I just want your patience for half a second.
Sure.
Jaishankar said that many countries, he did not single out the US, gave us the impression, please note the word impression, that the Pakistanis on the 10th were ready to call the hostilities off. And that we conveyed to them, these countries, that if they wish to do so, they have to use the DGMO channel. Now, clearly, as part of these conversations, I think the leading role was being played by the Americans. And clearly, the Pakistanis had agreed that that their DGMO will converse with the Indians. In fact, if I recollect correctly, and you can check the record, we've gone and said that that MEA received a call, if I'm not mistaken, at 12:37 p.m. on the 10th of May, saying that the DGMO, the Pakistani DGMO, was unable to get through to his Indian counterpart, and this was their embassy, their high commission here, telling us this. So we responded by saying that, okay, he can get through, and he got through, and then they had a conversation at 3:30 or some such time, and they decided that within an hour and a half, there will be the cessation of hostilities. So Jaishankar has not refuted the Trump, but he has expanded it to say that we were getting this impression from many countries. Now, no one has, and last point, no one, interestingly, during this debate, and this is what I'm finding, that as I hear this debate, I find it's not really a debate. It is talking past each other. A debate is when the opposition and the ruling party should engage with what is being said by the government and dissect their statements, like you are trying to do today. That is what is the debate. That is not taking place. So people could have asked him, what were these impressions based on? Did we ask our interlocutors who were telling us that there were these impressions, were we pursuing them? Were we asking them what was this? And who was our principal interlocutor? If it was the Americans, then there would have been some clarity about the question that you have asked, why did Trump break it? Obviously, the inference that I have is that the Americans were the principal interlocutors, which led Trump to be in the full knowledge of what is going to happen.
So I get what you're saying. Brahma calling it facilitators, you're saying possibly the principal interlocutors, maybe a direct question from the opposition would have been more advantageous to enable us to know exactly what happened. But Lieutenant General Yadav, let's look at, you've been a former DG infantry. The fact is, on the 10th, if India had such a superior position militarily vis-a-vis Pakistan, the question comes, why did we go for a ceasefire? That question has still not been answered. All we learned from Rajnath Singh in this instance is our political and military objectives were achieved, without giving me clarity what those objectives were. So do you believe that this debate has clarified that position on the ceasefire? A quick answer.
I think this debate has clarified the answer. That is number one. And basically, it is a political question. When two nations, they go to war, they set across their objectives and what is their aim. And as per our defense minister, he has said that by 10th, we had already achieved our objective. Therefore, the proposal of Pakistani DGMO to our DGMO to cease the fire and cease the hostility.
Well, what was the objective? But Mr. Rajnath Singh, with due regard, sir, did not specify what that objective was. What was the objective?
Well, Rajdeep, may I also convey to your viewers, as far as military operations are concerned, everything doesn't have got to be in the open domain. What are the political objectives, military objectives? I think that need not to be given out in the open domain at all. So what is required to be given is only need to know basis, and this is what the government and all their, and including the military brass during the Operation Sindoor briefing, they had given it out, and I agree with them. And yes, we could have prolonged the operation, fine, but since we had already achieved our objective of punishing Pakistan and trying to create a deterrence that they should not indulge into terror tactics, I think that was achieved. And I agree with the opinion of the government, and I am with them on this issue.
Okay. Let's raise the next question in the debate. Unanswered question, did India get adequate global support for our actions during Operation Sindoor? Was Pakistan isolated as we might have hoped as a terror state? Once again, listen in to a tug of war, this time between Jaishankar and Dipinder Hooda of the Congress.
विदेश मंत्रालय की और विदेश नीति की आपकी सच्चाई 11 साल की तब सामने आई जब ये टकराव की स्थिति पैदा हुई। कितने देश आपके साथ आके खड़े हुए? एक देश का नाम बताओ जिसने आतंकी हमले की निंदा भी करी, और दूसरी तरफ पाकिस्तान के साथ देने वालों की देशों में चीन, टर्की, अजरबैजान, मलेशिया जैसे देशों की, और आपके साथ एक ने भी बयान नहीं दिया। आईएमएफ ने $1 बिलियन का लोन सैंक्शन किया, जिसका विरोध भी आपने किया, लेकिन आपके विरोध को आईएमएफ ने नहीं सुना। वर्ल्ड बैंक ने $40 बिलियन के निवेश का प्रस्ताव पारित किया, तो उसी महीने एडीबी ने उसी मई के महीने में $800 मिलियन का लोन पाकिस्तान के लिए स्वीकृत किया। दूसरी तरफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल के अंदर पाकिस्तान को काउंटर टेररिज्म ग्रुप का co-chairman बनाया गया।
The council underlined the need to hold the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice. The TRF has been designated as a global terrorist organization by the US government, and the same Pakistani foreign minister who took so much pride saying, I defended the TRF, says, well, now if the US has done this, we accept it. Honorable Speaker, sir, there are 193 nations of the members of the United Nations. 193. Only 3, apart from Pakistan, opposed Operation Sindoor. Only 3.
Brahmachalani, Do you go along again with what Jaishankar said, that India has got adequate global support in its war against Pak-based terror?
Rajdeep, force should always be a last resort, but when used, it must be guided by strategic clarity. A military operation should aim for results that speak for themselves, not rely on post facto narrative building through domestic roadshows or sending delegations of lawmakers abroad. What is clear and undeniable that Operation Sindoor punctured the myth of Pakistan's nuclear shield, which had long been used by Pakistan to shield its export of terrorism. By redrawing the boundaries of escalation, India has reinforced that proxy warfare will no longer go unanswered. But I think let's not forget the larger geopolitical fallout. For example, right during Operation Sindoor, a third power, China, played a pivotal role by supplying real-time satellite reconnaissance data and other assistance to Pakistan, as India's Deputy Army Chief has said. Can this be ignored? Yet there is very little discussion in India on how China played a pivotal, if indirect, role in the conflict. Second fallout is that India, an emerging global power, now finds itself equated with Pakistan, a smaller, weaker country that has long been a rogue sponsor of terrorism. And a third fallout is that Operation Sindoor has helped reveal Trump's new love for Pakistan. Trump has equated terror sponsoring Pakistan with its victim India. Trump has remained silent on the root cause of the crisis, cross-border terrorism, while portraying Kashmir as the central dispute. This aligns with Pakistan's long-standing tactic of using the Kashmir issue as a smokescreen to legitimize its terror operations. And another fallout, and I think this has major security implications for India. Just when the traditional popular respect for the military in Pakistan was eroding, with Pakistanis blaming the military for the country's ills, Operation Sindoor has given a boost to the Pakistani military standing at home. Despite the heavy blows India inflicted, the Pakistan military claims victory by averting defeat against the stronger India. The widely unpopular General Asim Munir has not only rehabilitated his image, but also promoted himself to the rank of Field Marshal. Over the years, every US intervention in India-Pakistan tensions has ended up strengthening the Pakistan military at the expense of civilian authority. We should not forget that during the Kargil conflict, President Clinton's intervention effectively rescued Pakistan from a military and diplomatic debacle. The result was this emboldened General Pervez Musharraf to stage a coup. Now, Trump's shielding of Pakistan during India's Operation Sindoor has led to a steep 20% increase in Pakistan's military spending, and the new field marshal is now trying to undermine Prime Minister Sharif, who's in power because of the army.
You know, let me tell you, very, very strong words there, Vivek Kaju from Brahma Chelani. Very different to the kind of narrative that was built by Dr. Jaishankar. This critical question, have we been actually able to isolate Pakistan, or should I call it Chin-Pak? Because Brahma Chelani also pointed out China's role. Here we are now encouraging, facilitating Chinese tourist visas as well. We seem to be having business as usual once again with the Chinese, and the Pakistanis have managed to strike a relationship with the Trump administration. So is that question sufficiently answered by what the External Affairs Minister said, that the UN Security Council has condemned terror, BRICS has condemned terror, but all of them seem to be engaging with Pakistan?
Look, for me, the following issues are important. One, will Pakistan, after Operation Sindoor, or at any stage, give up terrorism as part of its strategic doctrine? I do not think it will. It is inherent now in Pakistan's strategic DNA the use of terror against India. Two, I think the Pakistani-Chinese nexus is of long standing and it will only intensify in the future. That is a reality that we have to live with. Three, let us not forget that Pakistan compared to us is a much, much smaller state. But objectively speaking, it is a country of 24 crore people. It is a country with nuclear weapons, and no one wants a nuclear Somali. My next point. Of course, the UN Security Council will condemn a terrorist attack, especially as heinous a terrorist attack at Pahalgam. Of course, it will demand that the perpetrators, abettors, and those who were behind it should be called to justice. This is not something that is unusual. This is what the Security Council is expected to do. So, even with Pakistan being a member of the Security Council, Pakistan cannot simply object to it.
But sir, let me repeat. Was Dr. Jaishankar successful in countering the opposition argument that India has failed diplomatically post-Pahalgam, yes or no?
India has failed. In diplomacy, Rajdeep, there are no yes or no answers. It's always
Have we achieved our diplomatic objectives? Have we achieved our diplomatic objectives?
Look, I think if our diplomatic objective was to show to the world that India will not absorb Pakistani terror anymore, that the Indian political class was united and determined, then by sending the 7 delegations, all-party delegations, which I think was a brilliant move on the part of the government and the political class as a whole, we achieved that objective. Okay. But at the same time, what we did not achieve, clearly, and what, if you noticed, Dr. Jaishankar never said through his statement, was that any country specifically named Pakistan as behind Pahalgam. Okay. He didn't say that.
That's right.
He tried one last sentence, and it's important.
Yes.
He tried to bypass this by saying that the term, or by implying that the term cross-border terrorism implies Pakistan. Now, yes,
point taken, Mr. Kajju, point taken. I just want to move on to other bits, but I think your point is well taken. That it's almost what Dr. Jaishankar didn't say, which is almost at times as important as what he did. My third question, and I'll get you, General Yadav, on this. How many jets did India lose was a question the opposition has asked at various times during the debate already. Is the government coming clean? Listen in now to Rajnath Singh and Gaurav Gogoi.
कभी-कभी हमारे प्रतिपक्ष के लोग ये पूछते रहे हैं कि हमारे कितने विमान गिरे। उन्होंने एक बार भी हमसे यह नहीं पूछा कि हमारी सेनाओं ने दुश्मन के कितने विमान मार गिराए। 1962 में अध्यक्ष महोदय चीन के साथ हुए युद्ध में जब दुखद परिणाम आया तो हमने उस समय की सरकार से ये पूछे थे, लेकिन वह प्रश्न यह था कि हमारे देश की धरती पर दूसरे देश का कब्जा कैसे हुआ। 71 के युद्ध में, 71 के युद्ध में जब हमने पाकिस्तान को सबक सिखाया, मैं उस समय की सरकार को मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूं। हमने अपने राजनीतिक और सैन्य नेतृत्व की प्रशंसा की। हमने ये नहीं देखा कि किस दल की सरकार है, किस विचारधारा की सरकार है।
क्या ये जरूरी नहीं कि जेट गिरे, पर क्यों गिरे, क्या गलतियां हुई, वो महत्वपूर्ण है। संख्या महत्वपूर्ण नहीं सर। 35 ही राफेल है देश में, 35 ही राफेल है। अगर उनमें से कुछ गिरे भी तो देखिए सर, मुझे तो लगता है कि बहुत बड़ी क्षति हुई।
General Yadav, contentious, sensitive issue raised by the opposition. Gaurav Gogoi even quoting what General Anil Chauhan said on the issue of alleged jets being lost. Should the government have come clean? Do you believe they came clean on the issue? Rajnath Singh claimed, forget about how many we lost, think about how many the enemy lost.
Rajdeep, I'm not privy to what has happened and what is the tally of what we had destroyed or what they destroyed. So I won't be able to comment on that. That is number one. But the fact remains, when two nations go to war with a kind of weaponry that has been used beyond visual range missiles and missiles or precision guided weapons, so there bound to be some damage. What is that level of damage is difficult to say. And all this statistics is better known to officers who are in command as of now, and not retired people like me.
Should they be out in the public domain? General Yadav, should those details be out in the public domain? No.
It should not be. It should not be. There's no way. Nothing of this kind of military statistics should be out in the open domain at all. It is not
Brahmacharani, do you agree with what General Yadav says? He says, even if jets were down, it is not, the government does not have any obligation to reveal it, not even in Parliament.
Rajdeep, it was India's Chief of Defence Staff who, in an interview with Reuters in Singapore, blundered by talking about the loss of some Indian warplanes on the first day of Operation Sindoor. He said the loss of some Indian warplanes resulted from, quote unquote, a tactical mistake, which the Indian Armed Forces corrected within 2 days. What was the tactical mistake? Was it that the political leadership turned a blind eye to the first principle of air warfare? The first principle of air warfare is that you take out the enemy's air defenses first before seeking to strike the real targets. Now, in line with that principle, Israel, in its opening salvos, took out Iran's air defenses, paving the way for deep penetration strikes while crippling Iran's ability to respond. In other words, by first neutralizing Iran's air defenses and thereby gaining control over the skies, Israel prevented Iran from escalating the conflict to a full-fledged war. In India's case, did the political leadership initially direct the armed forces to strike only terrorist camps inside awaiting Pakistan, an approach that led to the avoidable loss of some Indian warplanes? That's an important question. And a second key question, Rajdeep, is that when the political leadership finally authorized the Air Force to disable Pakistan's air defenses and air bases, that neutralization happened on the morning of May 10th. But immediately after neutralizing Pakistan's air defenses, India declared a ceasefire. There were no further Indian strikes. This defies strategic logic. Enemy's air defenses are neutralized not as a demonstration of capability, but to pave the way for strikes on the intended strategic targets. India's target was Pakistan's state-run terrorist infrastructure. But just when India neutralized the enemy's air defenses, India abruptly ceased its military operation. Why? That remains an unanswered question. And I think that question needs to be addressed, because if we do not address that question, future historians will certainly address this question.
Let me then turn to the next unanswered question. Was it answered in Parliament? Did India face Chin-Pak fused front? The idea of Chin-Pak. Listen in once again. Dr. Jaishankar versus Gaurav Gogoi on the China equation.
हम ये जानना चाहते हैं कि लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल राहुल आर सिंह ने सदन के अंदर नहीं, सांसदों को नहीं, राजनीतिक दलों के फ्लोर लीडर्स को नहीं, फिक्की में जाके कहा कि पाकिस्तान तो सिर्फ फ्रंट पे था और पाकिस्तान के पीछे चाइना उनके पूरी तरीके से समर्थन कर रहा है। ऐसी कोई आश्चर्य की बात नहीं होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि पिछले 5 वर्षों में लगभग 80% मिलिट्री हार्डवेयर पाकिस्तान को सिर्फ पूरा चाइना से मिल रहा है। तो सर, मैं आज पूछना चाहूंगा आदरणीय राजनाथ सिंह जी से जो सरकार चीन को लाल आंख दिखाने की बात करती है, एक बार भी आपने चीन का उजागर अपने भाषण में क्यों नहीं किया? आर्मी कहती है कि आज कि सिर्फ चीन और पाकिस्तान का ये 2 फ्रंट नहीं, अब 3 फ्रंट का भी हो सकता है, कन्वर्जेंस हो सकता है चीन, पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश को लेकर। लेकिन मैं सरकार को याद दिलाना चाहूंगा कि ये जो 2 फ्रंट की जो बात थी, इस बात की शुरुआत किसने की थी? इस बात की चेतावनी किसने दी थी? इस बात की चेतावनी इसी सदन में हमारे दल के नेता राहुल गांधी जी ने दी थी।
The person who said it, and maybe the leader of opposition, must have missed their history lessons in school. I'll tell you why. Because I would like to walk you through the history of this 2 front. The 2 front started because of something called POK. POK was created in 1948-49 by the government of this country by not completing the job of what was to be done. The Doklam crisis was on. The leader of opposition decided to get a briefing from whom? Not from the government, not from the emir, from the Chinese ambassador. Now, some mention was made about visits, including my visit. Yes, I went to China. I went to China to make our position very clear about de-escalation, about trade restrictions, and about terrorism. I did not go to China for the Olympics. I did not go to China for secret agreements.
Vivek Kajju, has the Chin-Pak question been answered by the External Affairs Minister in your view?
I think the Chin-Pak question is a strategic question. Mr. Jaishankar's response was purely political. It was not strategic. He delved into history in a selective manner. Everyone delves into history in a selective manner, so Dr. Jaishankar's delving it in a selective manner is par for the course. I mean, after all, an opposition leader can ask, no one is asked about the government's response to the Pathankot air base attack. No one asked that. Perhaps it was not appropriate to do so. But Jaishankar has also become a politician. He was once my colleague, but now he's a politician, so he answers strategic questions politically. But Rajdeep, I want a moment to respond to what was your earlier question. I think you asked my other 2 co-panelists, but I have one small point on that. I think the general is absolutely right. There are certain strategic and military secrets which can never be revealed. As a former diplomat, I believe in that entirely. But I also am conscious that what transpired or what is believed to have transpired, I think that's a more accurate formulation. What is believed to have transpired on the night of the 6th and 7th set a certain global narrative. And that narrative has harmed us. Because ultimately, we were able to find pathways through Pakistani's aerial defenses to strike on the morning of the 10th at the 9 air bases. I would beg to differ with Brahma on one issue. I think those demonstration attacks were very, very significant. We could have taken them further by having a strike, a major strike at a facility. But we can't overlook the fact, and the world does not overlook the fact, that India and Pakistan are nuclear weapon states. And whenever there are hostilities, armed hostilities between nuclear weapon states, and there is an escalatory process that sets in, it's a different matter that I believe the first step on an escalatory ladder is a Pakistani terrorist attack. But once hostilities begin, that recedes into the background, and once the escalation begins, then everyone is very scared, and the major powers want it to be over, hostilities to be over. So I'm a little worried about the narrative business and the night of the 6th and 7th, because all my foreign interlocutors, some of them very senior people, have asked me just this question. And when I've answered it by saying that, look, see what happened on the 10th, they've smiled at me.
Okay. Okay. In a way, what you're saying, therefore, from what we've gathered over the last half an hour of discussing this, there are still several unanswered questions in a way. Today was only day one of this parliament debate, 16 hours in both houses. So there's ample time to ask those direct questions that perhaps the opposition needs to ask and the government needs to answer, possibly without couching it in a manner that prevents the nation from knowing certain key questions. For example, what were the intelligence lapses that perhaps led to Pahalgam? An issue raised by the opposition, not answered in a way by the government, or certainly not yet. The government has focused on its attacks on terror infrastructure. The opposition has focused much more on the lead up to Pahalgam and the ceasefire announcement by Donald Trump. To all my guests, I appreciate you joining us. We'll try and bring you back, perhaps once the debate has finally concluded. But for now, Brahma Chelani, Vivek Kaju, General Yadav, thank you so much for joining me here on the news today. To other big story tonight, the Supreme Court took up the petitions on Monday challenging the Election Commission's special intensive revision of electoral rolls for Bihar, an issue which has divided the political class in particular. The court has not ordered, importantly, a stay on the exercise, but suggested once again that the Election Commission should accept Aadhaar and voter ID cards as proof of documentation. What else did the court say? Anisha Mathur has the details.
Well, it's a no stay for now on the Bihar SIR, but the Supreme Court has raised certain questions about why Aadhaar and election cards, the voter cards, are not being allowed as proofs by the Election Commission. Once again, the Election Commission saying that these documents can be forged, but the Supreme Court shooting back, saying any document, including the 10 that are on the EC's list, can easily be forged in today's day and age. For now, however, the Supreme Court has said that it will decide on whether or not to issue a stay on the SIR process, but tomorrow morning it will consider the issue of when the matter will be heard in detail. The petitioners have been asking them to issue a stay on the SIR exercise, or at least delink it from the Bihar elections. Tomorrow morning, that is Tuesday morning, we'll find out when this matter will be heard, because remember, the publication of the draft SIR is on the 1st of August. The court, however, clarifying that even after publication, it does have the power to issue any orders that it deems fit after the detailed hearing. Back to you.
Now, while the debate may be at the moment confined largely to Bihar and the special intensive revision exercise undertaken by the election, one other political controversy is also beginning to brew, and it has a human dimension. Bangla-speaking migrant workers are living in fear in Gurugram. Over 350 people have been detained by the Haryana police, they claim, in a crackdown on illegal migration from Bangladesh. But only 10 people have been identified as Bangladeshis. The drive has scared many migrant workers who work in the Millennium City to leave in large numbers. Shreya Chatterjee with tonight's ground report from Gurugram.
This slum in Gurugram is witnessing an exodus. Many Bengali migrants have left their homes in Q Block after a police drive to identify illegal Bangladeshi immigrants. A 6-year-old kid who points to empty homes of families that left in fear says a family is also returning to West Bengal.
আমরা 1 তারিখে যাচ্ছি।
তোমরা এখানে পড়াশোনা করো?
হ্যাঁ।
পড়াশোনা করো? তো এখন তোমাদের ওই জন্য খারাপ লাগছে যে এখানে কোথায় গিয়ে পড়বে?
স্কুল বন্ধ হয়ে গেল।
কেন খারাপ লাগছে একটু বলো আমাকে।
লোককে ধরে নিয়ে যাচ্ছে, মারছে, পিটছে, আমাকে ভয় লাগছে বাবাকে নিয়ে।
Migrant workers say the drive targets Bangla-speaking Muslims. Families are packing up not because they want to leave, but because they feel hunted. This man from Uttar Dinajpur says the process is arbitrary and humiliating.
जो होना चाहिए, जो प्रोसेस गवर्नमेंट को अपनाना चाहिए, जो यहाँ का प्रशासन है उनको अपनाना चाहिए, उस तरीके से नहीं उठाया जा रहा है। डायरेक्ट आ रहे हैं, उनको ले जाया जा रहा है, डिटेन किया जा रहा है। लिस्ट बनाइए, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का हमारे भेजिए, वो वेरीफाई करके भेजेंगे। अगर लगता है कि नहीं, अगर स्टेट बैंक क्या आपको लगता है कि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर कोई भरोसा नहीं रहा आपको केंद्र सरकार का?
And then this voice, cutting through the noise, asks a question that stings.
मैं बंगाली बोल रही हूँ तो इसमें मेरा क्या दोष है? वो मेरी मातृभाषा है। मैं ऐसे बोल रही हूँ, मैं खुद ये सोच के पैदा नहीं हूँ कि मैं बंगाल में पैदा हूँ। मैंने कोई नोटिस नहीं दिया था भगवान को कि मुझे बंगाल में पैदा करो, मुझे मुस्लिम पैदा करो। आप अपने कास्ट में पैदा हुए, मैं अपने कास्ट में पैदा हुई, वो हमारी सबकी किस्मत है। पर आप किसी के भाषा को लेके किसी को टॉर्चर करोगे, ये गलत है, बहुत गलत है।
Kabir says he was born in Delhi, has a passport and a voter ID, but was still picked up, so was his son.
मेरे को लेके गया था, मैं दिल्ली का रहने वाला, मेरा जन्म दिल्ली में है। थाना में 3 दिन उठा के रख दिया, मेरा लड़का को 5 दिन रखा। मेरा पास पासपोर्ट है, आधार कार्ड है, पैन कार्ड है, वोटर कार्ड है, कुछ भी नहीं मान रहा था। जो बंगाली जवान बोलेगा उसको उठाएगा। सब जा रहा है, सब कोई भी ना है। अब यहाँ कम से कम ये 5-6 हजार आदमी, अभी मेरा ख्याल में 200 आदमी ना है यहाँ।
Their fear is evident, their despair even more so.
अब हिंदू लोग हंस रहा है, या एक भी हिंदू को उठाया नहीं, सब मुसलमान को परेशान कर रही है। पेट बचाने के लिए आई, यहाँ आया, यहाँ कुत्ते का तरह पीटता है, तो क्या करे गांव में ना जाके? शुभ में ऐसे कह रहा है।
कितने साल से हुआ था?
मेरा 25 साल हो गया।
Some landlords speak out, urging the authorities to differentiate between Bangladeshis and Bengalis.
ये मुहिम जो चलाई है बांग्लादेशियों के लिए चलाई है, ना कि बंगालियों के लिए चलाई है। तो बंगाली को ना पकड़े, बांग्लादेशी को पकड़े। बांग्लादेशी के हम बिल्कुल खिलाफ है। अगर बांग्लादेशी है तो उनको पकड़ के ले जाओ, उनको वहाँ छोड़ दो, पीटो, मर्जी करना हो करो, लेकिन बंगालियों को परेशान ना करें। देश में जो हिंदू मुसलमान का जो नारा लगाया जा रहा है वो बिल्कुल गलत है जी। मैं इसके खिलाफ हूँ।
गलत हो रहा है, ये होना नहीं चाहिए। हमने तो कोशिश भी करी है, पर सुनता कौन है किसी की। 20-20 साल से रह रहे हैं, पूछो 25 साल हो रहे हैं जी। जाकर नहीं तो इनका आई कार्ड देख रहे, नहीं इनकी कोई सुन रहा है, इनको पीटते हैं, जाके ले जाके पीट रहे हैं। तो ये गलत हो रहा है जी इनके साथ।
Residents say many men without uniforms, without number plates come, threaten and detain. India Today reached out to the Gurugram police PRO with questions on the procedure followed and the allegations of torture, but got no response. Over 350 people have been screened. The police confirmed that just 10 illegal migrants have been identified.
These lanes in Gurgaon that used to hustle and bustle with the Bengali Muslim migrant community now bear a deserted look thanks to a Bangladeshi Dhundo Abhiyan that is being conducted by the Gurgaon administration. We've been told by sources in the Gurgaon police that at least 400 people were held in holding centers in 4 different places, but only 10 of them have been identified as illegal Bangladeshi immigrants, raising a question in the percentage. Why were 390 people, despite being Indian nationals, picked up? All of them asking one pertinent question, that whether the language that they speak, which is Bengali, which is also an Indian language, is the sole reason for them being picked up and harassed.
With Neeraj Vashisht and video journalist Sanjeev Kumar, with Shah Chatterjee, Bureau Report, India Today.
Hopefully, people will not be targeted simply for the language they speak. To people who are being targeted for the religion they practice. To Chhattisgarh, where 2 nuns are in jail over allegations of conversion. They were arrested based on an FIR filed by Bajrang Dal workers. The arrests have sparked a political showdown, with even the Kerala Chief Minister now getting into the act. Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Vishnu Dev Sai, on the other hand, is backing the police action. Take a look at our other ground story.
नजर नहीं आना मेरे को। किसी भी बच्चे को बाइबल पढ़ाते हुए यीशु बहुत अच्छे हैं, बिल्कुल नहीं बोलना। 3 लड़की है, 3 बेटी भाई, 3 लड़की और 1 लड़का।
The arrest of 2 Catholic nuns in Chhattisgarh over alleged human trafficking and conversion has sparked outrage. The sisters, Vandana Francis and Preeti Mary, were targeted by Bajrang Dal workers at a Durg railway station on Friday. The police took the nuns into custody based on the complaint by Bajrang Dal workers who claimed the nuns were taking 3 women for conversion. Later, the nuns were sent to judicial custody by a local court. The church has denied the charges.
Actually, I condemn the whole case because it is a fabricated, planned affair by the police as well as the Bajrang Dal people. These girls have been allowed by their parents to go for work, and they were accompanying the sisters to Agra and other places for work. They have been forcefully stopped at the railway station and they have been taken to the police.
Viral videos of the arrest show the complainant Jyoti Sharma confronting the nuns.
मैंने बच्चों से पूछा तो वो तीनों लड़कियों ने कहा कि हाँ हम पढ़ते हैं बाइबिल को, तो बाइबिल को पढ़ते हैं, तो वो कन्वर्जन के लिए ही लेके जा रहे थे। जो दोनों नन थी और लड़का थे उनसे हमने पूछा कुछ है आपके पास में लिखित में, उन्होंने नहीं कहा। उनके घर वालों को तो मालूम ही नहीं था कि उनकी लड़कियों को आगरा लेके जाया जा रहा है।
The arrest has sparked a political showdown. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi, in a post on X, called it an act of persecution. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi urging the centre to ensure justice for the nuns. Meanwhile, the Chhattisgarh government called for a stop to conversions. The Chief Minister, in a social media post, claimed the nuns were trying to convert the women by offering them jobs.
धर्मांतरण के लिए कानून तो बना है प्रदेश में, लेकिन उसको और शक्तिशाली बनाने की आवश्यकता है और इसको आने वाले विधानसभा के सत्र में प्रस्तुत करेंगे.
Chhattisgarh's tribal belt is again in the eye of a communal tension, and this time two Catholic nuns are facing serious allegations of forced conversion. But now, chilling videos of Jyoti Sharma, a key complainant in this entire case and also a famous Bajrang Dal leader, are now going viral, trying to threaten the tribal villagers and coerce them to renounce Christian faith. Now, this entire incident has become a political and communal flashpoint, but the question rises, is this justice or simply a witch hunt cloaked in the name of Ghar Wapsi?
The arrest of nuns has become a political issue in Kerala, which goes to elections next year. The BJP, which is wooing the Christian community there, is facing some tough questions from its rivals in Kerala. With Sumi Rajapan in Raipur, Bureau Report, India Today.
Targeting someone because of their religion, simply unacceptable, unconstitutional, un-Indian. Let me, though, leave you with a story that's, I call, only in India. In a bizarre turn of events that has left the Patna administration scrambling for explanations, a residence certificate was issued to a dog. That's right, a dog last week in Patna. He was listed on that documentation as Dog Babu. The Patna district administration, already under pressure on the election revision rolls, has swiftly swung into damage control after the story gained traction. An FIR has been lodged against the applicant, the computer operator who entered the details of that lovely golden retriever without proper scrutiny, and the revenue official who issued the certificate despite clear anomalies. Guess har kutte ka din aata hai. That's all I can say. Dog Babu has got a residence certificate.